welcome to my channel. My name is Mira and today I'm gonna tell you about a breathing project I've been doing with the Coral Red Pencilfish. So I bought a pair in the local pet shop actually ordered me a pair because they don't sell them on a regular basis. And I brought them home, and you have maybe seen my other video with the Buddha aquarium, which was the first aquarium I put them in. So I isolated them in that aquarium to see if I can make them spawn. So I did have my first tank set up with a lot of plants and more of an aquascape situation going on, but the spare tank, which is a 60-liter tank, I didn't really have a cool setup. It was just to make them breathe. So I'll insert a picture of that so you can see. It's not as cool as it's now, but it did a trick. So I kept him in there for maybe around a week, and then I saw he was turning more and more red, soaking up the color, and she was getting a more round belly, and you could actually see, because the female is quite see-through, so you can actually see through the fish that she had eggs. And I was so excited. So that was really cool. What I did then was I was feeding them quite regularly, because I was feeding them twice a day, so morning and night, with only frozen foods. So they got the brine shrimp, which they love, and that night I overfed them, so I put extra food in the aquarium and I covered it pitch black, turned off the lights and everything, because I got that tip from a friend. He said it might work, and I was like, yeah, sure, because I've been watching them like flirting for a week, but nothing was happening. And the next morning I couldn't really see anything. I did not see any eggs, and I didn't see anything that could look like baby fishes or anything, and I was like, meh, it didn't work. Whatever, I'll just move them. So I put them over into my main tank, which is my actually first aquarium that I got. And I unplugged the heater, I took out the filter, and I turned off the lights, and I was like, meh, I'll look at it later. About 2 days later, I was in my living room, and because that's where the spare aquarium is, and I was like, is there something moving in my aquarium? So I took a look, and there were baby tiny, like super tiny fishes swimming around. And I was like, what? And yeah, I did remove everything, and the aquarium would usually keep around 19 degrees without heat. However, it was a really cold period here in Norway, so it was 17 degrees, and I was like, bah. That's the only way I can explain it. What do you do then? So I freaked out, because the water was freezing. I didn't have anything circulating in the aquarium. However, I was like, what do I do? Do I put the heat into the aquarium? Do I move them? Because I actually do have a tiny tank set up for fry, which I've been keeping my, I have some shrimps in there, and I also have some guppy fry. And I was like, what do I do? So I found out, since the water is a little bit warmer in the one in the office, my baby tank, and also because the heating element wasn't really working, and it tried, actually, the next time I tried to use it, it tried to boil my fish. So I'm kind of glad that I decided to physically move the fish. So I sat down with a glass and I started fishing, and I could find a total of 11 fry, only 7 were alive, and I were able to save 7 of them. So I put them in a floating tank in the baby aquarium with some Java moss, because they're basically not using the space in the water, they're just pretending to be dead twigs. And they're also super tiny, so it's really hard to see them, and they're not fun at all, because they won't swim around and do stuff or be curious. They will just float around. So I put them so I put them in the baby tank with the baby guppies, of course, as I said, in another box, so they were completely separated. However, I had some trouble feeding them because the transition went well, by the way. I spent like 2 hours getting them into the warmer water because the water in the office is 26 degrees, which is a very big difference. So I spent a lot of time climatizing them to that, and I also had an in-between step, so I didn't just put them in the tank and let the temperature even out. I didn't do that. I had an in-between step as well because I thought it was too dramatic of a change. However, feeding them, that was the issue, because in the first aquarium they were living off worms and something that looks like little fleas swimming around in the aquarium, and because they are hunters, and they were not eating any of my super small food for baby fishes. They weren't taking any of it. They only ate things that moved. So I was like, what do I do? Because there's not much of that in the baby tank. So I took a big piece of the Java moss from the aquarium where they hatched and put it in the floating tank, because there was still a lot of things growing around in the moss. So I was like, please keep it alive until I have something that I can feed them with. And so the moss had been growing quite rapidly over the next 5 weeks. I didn't really see them actually, because they're so tiny and they're so still. It's like a tiny piece of needle floating around. So maybe I saw 1 or 2 at a time, but for a week I didn't see any, and I was like, are they there or are they dead? So I decided to trim the moss, because the moss was taking up like almost the entire breather box I had them in, so I had to do something about that. So I trimmed the moss, and I only found 1 of 7. So I did check. I did keep the moss in a box with water to see if I could shake out any fishes that was there. I opened up the moss to see if they were stuck in the Java moss, because that could happen. And I didn't find any, except for 1. So then I'm keeping now the 1 alone, and I was trying to feed it. So I was starting to watch more closely. With the mask on, I could see the movements of the fish and at what time it's more active, and I was like, I need to find something to feed it with. So I tried a microworm culture that I've been working on, and it was ready. So I watched the fish. I tried feeding it at different times of day, but in the morning it doesn't eat any of the microworms. They just go straight through the box because it has hole. But around like 3 o'clock it's starting to become a little bit more active, and around 6 o'clock that's probably the time where the fry is the most active. So if I fed it around 6 o'clock preferably, and later in the evening with microworms, it would actually eat. And I was like, yes, please eat something, because they're moving around. They're not eating anything that's still, as I said. Also, because there's no water flow in the box, I was and because I could see the fry, if I fed the microworms inside the box and also outside the box, the box would stay still and the microworms in them would just squiggle down, while in the aquarium they would circulate. And I could see the fry only going for the microworms outside of the box, so it was constantly hitting the glass, trying to eat the ones that were moving on the outside. So I have gotten a like hang-on breather box that I'm gonna be using, so I'm gonna actually move the fish now. It's 7 weeks old now, so I'm gonna move it to a bigger box because I will get the flow into the box. So right now I'm testing the temperatures to see if they're stable, because I live in Norway. It's not hot here, not even in the summers, so up north that is. So I'm gonna try to see if it likes that aquarium more, because I can keep the temperature now stable for 25-26 degrees. because then I can get the movement of the food, and it will start probably to eat more food because it's moving, because it is a hunter. So that's where that fish currently is. So that was the first time that I bred this fish, and I did it. It's really hard because there's not really any information about it out on the internet. I tried to read on web pages or YouTube, but it doesn't look like anyone is actually doing this species. So, I mean, if you have any tips, please comment down below. If not, then I hope we can figure it out together. So now I'm actually trying round 2 with the spawning, and I think I actually missed quite a bit because I did have them in my Buddha aquarium yesterday, and he was super red, she was full with eggs, and they were flirting, so I overfed them, covered it up, and waited over the night. But I don't know how many rounds they'll spawn in, so I'm not sure, because when I put them in the old tank, she started laying eggs, and I was like, no. So I guess we'll see. I removed everything from the Buddha aquarium, so except from the heater. I'm keeping the heater because it's quite cold, so I want to see if something hatches. Fingers crossed, because it would be really cool to try again. If not, I'm just gonna try for another round later. So I just hope my current fry, the one that I have left, will make it through. So yeah, I guess I'll update you guys on that later, and I'll insert some clip of the red color of the Coral Red Pencilfish that he had yesterday, because he was so beautiful. And yeah, I hope you enjoy this and follow along the journey of my little fry. So I'll see you in the next one. Bye!